Kira Brooks sat nervously in the sleek conference room aboard the Earth Coalition flagship. The walls gleamed with polished metal, and the large viewport showed the stars and the looming shape of the Zarthi mothership. Her hands fidgeted with the sleeve of her formal military uniform as she waited for the alien delegation to arrive. 3 months had passed since her encounter with Commander Sari on Nexus Prime. What had started as a simple act of mercy had somehow sparked the first peace. Talks between humans and the Zarthi in over 50 years of conflict. Kira still found it hard to believe that she was now part of the diplomatic team. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Admiral Kate Foster entered, followed by 2 security officers, and the human diplomatic corps. Kira stood at attention. "At ease, Sergeant," said Admiral Foster, her stern face showing rare signs of stress. "The Zarthi delegation will arrive in 5 minutes. Remember your briefing. Speak only when spoken to and, for heaven's sake, try not to stare at their mandibles." Kira nodded. "Yes, Admiral. I still don't understand why they requested you specifically," continued Foster, examining Kira with suspicious eyes. "A combat medic with no diplomatic experience. What exactly happened on Nexus Prime?" Before Kira could formulate a response that wouldn't reveal her unauthorized assistance to an enemy combatant, the room lights pulsed in a sequence indicating the arrival of the alien delegation. The humans arranged themselves on one side of the long table, Admiral Foster at the center with Kira positioned surprisingly close to her right. Tension filled the air as the door opened again. 4 Zarthi warriors entered first, their massive frames covered in ceremonial armor that accentuated their forearms. Each carried an ornamental staff that Kira knew could transform into a deadly weapon in milliseconds. Their scales shimmered with colors that human eyes could barely process. Then she entered. Sari walked with a slight limp, but otherwise showed no sign of her previous paralysis. Her amber eyes scanned the room, landing immediately on Kira. A subtle movement of her mandibles suggested recognition, perhaps even satisfaction. Behind Sari came 3 elder Zarthi, females, their scales faded to a pale blue with age. These were the matriarchs, the ruling council of the Zarthi society. Their presence indicated the seriousness with which the aliens were approaching these talks. "Greetings, humans," said the eldest, matriarch through a translator device. "I am Supreme Matriarch Vexala. We come seeking understanding." Admiral Foster inclined her head in the gesture that the diplomatic team had practiced. "Supreme Matriarch, we welcome you aboard the Horizon. Thank you for agreeing to these historic talks." The formalities continued, but Kira found herself locked in silent communication with Sari. The alien warrior stood tall behind her, matriarchs, her eyes never leaving Kira. When the introductions finished, the groups took their seats. "We have reviewed your proposals for ceasefire," said Vexala, her voice carrying the musical quality characteristic of Zarthi speech. "They are acceptable as initial terms. However, we have questions about human intentions, as The diplomats began their careful dance of words. Kira noticed Sari discreetly tapping a pattern on the table. With a jolt, she realized it matched the rhythm of the neural stimulator she had used to help the warrior. 3 taps. Pause. 2 taps. Pause. 1 tap, a code or simply acknowledgement of their shared experience. "Our primary concern," continued Vexiala, "is the human tendency toward unpredictable behavior. We struggle to understand a species that values individual choice over collective harmony." The human diplomatic chief began a prepared response, but Vexala raised her upper right hand, silencing him. "No," she said, "we wish to hear from that one." She pointed directly at Kira. Admiral Foster stiffened. "Supreme Matriarch Sergeant Brooks is not a diplomat. She is here only as the human who spared Envoy Sari when our ways demanded her death," interrupted Vexala. "As the human who demonstrated what you call mercy, we wish to understand this concept from its source." The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Kira. Her throat felt dry as she realized the weight suddenly placed on her shoulders. The peace talks, potentially the end of a generational war, now seemed to hinge on her ability to explain a simple human value. "Supreme Matriarch," began Kira carefully. "I found Envoy Sari wounded on the battlefield. I had 2 choices: let her die or help her. I chose to help because that is what humans do. We believe that compassion even toward enemies shows true strength. Yet you fight wars, observed another matriarch. You kill our warriors. We do, admitted Kira. In battle, we fight to win. But once the fighting stops, we believe in showing dignity to the wounded and captured. We believe everyone deserves a chance to live. Sari stepped forward. Matriarchs, with permission, I can confirm this human speaks truth. The device she gave me contained histories of human conflicts. They fight fiercely, but their greatest leaders always spoke of mercy toward the defeated. Their strongest alliances were built after their most bitter wars. Vexala studied Kira with ancient eyes that seemed to look through her. Fascinating. We had interpreted human unpredictability as weakness. Now I wonder if it might be something else entirely. She turned. To Admiral Foster, we will continue these talks. Your Sergeant Brooks has given us much to consider. As the meeting concluded, Kira caught Sari watching her. The alien gave a subtle gesture with her lower left hand, a movement that translated roughly to gratitude in Zarthi culture. Later, as Kira returned to her quarters, she found a small object outside her door, a crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. Inside the crystal was a tiny replica of the neural stimulator she had used to help Sari. A gift, a symbol, a beginning. The peace talks continued for 2 weeks aboard the Horizon. Kira found herself called to more meetings than she expected. The matriarchs seemed fascinated by her, particularly Vexala, who asked endless questions about human customs, family structures, and the concept of individual choice. Your species raises children in small family units, observed Vexala during one session. How do you maintain unity of purpose? We value diversity of thought, explained Kira. Different perspectives help us find better solutions. This answer seemed to trouble the elderly matriarch. Yet you form a coalition. How do you function without perfect agreement? Before Kira could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red emergency lights flashed in the conference room. Admiral Foster rushed in, her face grim. The talks are suspended, she announced. A coalition outpost near Vega has been attacked. We have reports of heavy casualties. The Zarthi delegation bristled their scales, shifting to aggressive. Crimson patterns. Vexala rose to her full height. We have ordered no such attack, she declared. This violation of good faith negotiations will not. The attack was not by Zarthi forces, interrupted Foster. Initial reports suggest Kral raiders, Thumrae. Tension in the room shifted instantly. The Kral were a nomadic species known for their brutality and their hatred of both humans and Zarthi. Their raids had increased in recent years, taking advantage of the conflict between the two major powers. The Kral would not dare, hissed Sari, her mandibles clicking rapidly. Not unless they knew about these peace talks, finished Foster, and wanted to disrupt them. Vexala turned to her warriors and spoke rapidly in their native language, and the translator struggled to keep up. But Kira caught fragments about defensive positions and mobilizing the fleet. Admiral Foster, said Vexala finally, the Kral are enemies to both our peoples. We propose a joint response to this provocation. Foster hesitated, clearly surprised by the offer. A joint military operation that would require trust, said Vexala. Something we have begun to build here. She gestured toward Kira. Because of this one. 2 days later, Kira found herself aboard a Zarthi battle cruiser heading toward Vega. The ship was unlike anything she had experienced before. The corridors were designed for the taller 4-armed aliens with strange geometric patterns etched into the walls that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. The air held a sweet, spicy scent that made her slightly lightheaded. She had been assigned as liaison between the human Special Forces team and the Zarthi warriors, a role that had Admiral Foster concerned. They requested you specifically. Again, Brooks, Foster had told her before departure. I don't know what game you're playing, but remember your loyalty. Now Kira stood on the Zarthi bridge watching the stars streak by as they traveled faster than light toward the attacked outpost. Sari approached her, upper arms folded in a formal stance, lower arms relaxed in what Kira had learned was a gesture of friendship. Your team is settling in well, observed Sari. Though they seem uncomfortable with our food, Kira smiled. The moving. Food takes some getting used to. You seem at ease here, said Sari, studying her. Most humans would be fearful. I was at first, admitted Kira. But then I remembered something my grandmother used to say. Fear is just unfamiliarity wearing a mask. Once you look beneath it, there's usually something you can understand. Sari made a sound the translator didn't catch. Your wisdom reminds me of our teaching scrolls. Perhaps humans and Zarthi are not so different after all. The ship's alert system, pulse drawing their attention. A holographic display appeared showing the Vega outpost or what remained of it. The research station was heavily damaged with debris floating in orbit around the small moon life signs. Asked the Zarthi captain. Faint. Readings from the central hub reported a warrior at a control panel, and Kral ship still in the area. 5 raiders and 1 destroyer. The captain turned to Sari. Envoy your recommendation. We send in a joint rescue team, said Sari without hesitation. Zarthi warriors and human special forces. Our ships provide cover and engage the Kral vessels. The captain seemed hesitant. The matriarchs entrusted you with command, but this strategy puts our warriors alongside humans in combat. Is this wise? It is necessary, replied Sari. If we are to forge a true alliance, we must fight together as well as talk together. Kira was summoned to brief the human team. Lieutenant Carol Wright. The team leader looked skeptical when Kira explained the plan. Fighting. Alongside Zarthi, said Wright, shaking her head. Last month they were trying to kill us, now we're supposed to trust them at our backs. I do, said Kira simply. Wright studied her face. You really believe in this alliance, don't you, Brooks? I believe. We've been fighting the wrong enemy, replied Kira. The Kral have been playing us against each other for years, raiding our borders and letting us blame each other. Look at their pattern of attacks. Each one precisely calculated to increase tensions. Rescue operation launched within the hour. 2 shuttles, 1 human, 1 Zarthi, approached the damaged station, while the battlecruisers engaged the Kral ships. Kira found herself in the Zarthi shuttle alongside Sari and 4 warriors. Their armor was impressive with built-in propulsion systems for zero-gravity combat. Stay close to me, instructed Sari, handing Kira a Zarthi sidearm. This weapon is keyed to your biorhythm. It will respond to your intent. The shuttle docked with a shudder. The airlock cycled and they entered the station. Emergency lights cast eerie shadows down the twisted corridors. Signs of battle were everywhere. Blast marks scored the walls and Kira spotted both human and Kral blood. The survivors are in the central lab, said Sari, checking a scanner. The humans are approaching from the opposite direction. They moved through the station with practiced efficiency. The Zarthi warriors took point their 4 arms, allowing them to maintain weapons ready while still navigating the damaged environment. Kira found herself impressed by their discipline. A shriek of rage echoed down the corridor ahead. A Kral raider, 7 feet of muscle and armored scales, charged toward them. Kira raised her weapon, but Sari was faster. The Zarthi envoy fired 2 precise shots, dropping the attacker. They left sentries, observed Sari. The survivors must have something valuable. When they reached the central lab, they found Lieutenant Wright and her team already engaged in combat with a dozen Kral. Without hesitation, Sari led her warriors into the fight. The 2 species fought together as if they had trained for years. The Zarthi provided covering fire, while the humans evacuated the survivors, later as they returned. To the Zarthi ship, Kira noticed something had changed. The human and alien soldiers regarded each other with newfound respect. You fight well for 2 arms, one Zarthi warrior told Wright, who laughed. You move pretty quick for someone so tall, she responded. Sari approached Kira as they watched this exchange. Today was significant, not just the rescue but this. She gestured toward the mixed group, the beginning of trust. Kira nodded. The first joint Zarthi human military operation in history. And not the last, I think, said Sari. The Kral will not expect us to unite. They have preyed on our division for too long. As the ship prepared to return to the peace conference, Kira felt cautiously optimistic. Something important had shifted today. Enemies had become allies united against a common threat, but questions remained. Why had the Krell attacked this particular outpost, and what were they looking for among the ruins? The aftermath of Colonel Mason's failed coup threw the peace talks into chaos. Accusations flew from both sides. Suspicion replaced the fragile trust that had been building. The Zarthi matriarchs demanded justice for the attack, while human hardliners claimed it was all a setup. Only the intervention of Admiral Foster and Supreme Matriarch Vexala prevented a complete breakdown. Foster took the unprecedented step of surrendering Mason to Zarthi custody, a gesture that shocked both species. In return, Vexala agreed to a joint tribunal rather than summary execution. Through it all, Kira remained at Sari's side as the Zarthi warrior fought for her life in the medical bay. The wound from Mason's weapon had damaged 2 of her 4 hearts. The Zarthi physicians worked tirelessly alongside human doctors in a collaboration that would have been unthinkable months earlier. "She saved my life," Kira told Admiral Foster during a brief meeting. Sari knew what Mason intended before he fired Foster. Studied Kira with tired eyes. "Your friendship with this alien has become something of a symbol. Brooks, both sides are watching. To some, you're a traitor, to others, you're the future." "I don't care about symbols," replied Kira. "I care about finding Dr. Miller and the artifact before someone else does, and I care about Sari surviving." "The Zarthi have agreed to share their tracking technology," said Foster. "We've detected an energy signature matching the crystal moving toward the outer rim. It's faster than any known ship. Maybe this ascension gate isn't just a location. Maybe the artifact itself is a key that can create temporary gateways." 3 days later, Sari regained consciousness. Her scales had paled to a dull blue, but her eyes were alert when Kira entered the medical bay. "You look terrible," said Kira, smiling with relief. Sari made a clicking sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. "You should see yourself, human, dark circles under your eyes. Have you slept at all?" "Not much," admitted Kira. "We've been trying to track Dr. Miller. The crystal creates energy bursts when it jumps through space. We can follow the trail, but not predict where she'll go next." "She seeks the ascension gate," said Sari, struggling to sit up. "The Tiui. Ancient texts speak of its guardians. They will not surrender their technology easily. If Miller activates the gate without proper preparation, the consequences could be catastrophic." "Then we need to find her first," said Kira. "A joint mission, Sari." Studied her. "The matriarchs will not easily trust humans after what happened, and our leaders feel the same about trusting Zarthi," countered Kira. "But we don't have a choice. This affects both our species." Against medical advice, Sari left her bed. To join Kira in presenting their proposal to the combined leadership, Admiral Foster seemed receptive, but many of the human officers remained skeptical. The Zarthi delegation was equally divided. "We cannot commit our fastest vessels to this pursuit," argued one Zarthi commander. "Not while our home systems remain vulnerable. If Dr. Miller activates the gate improperly, there may not be home systems to defend," countered Sari, her voice weaker than normal, but her conviction strong. In the end, it was Vexala who made the decision. "We will send one ship, the Stellar Claw, our fastest stealth vessel. It will carry a mixed crew, human and Zarthi envoy. Sari will command with Sergeant Brooks as second." The human delegation erupted in protests. Foster raised her hand, silencing them. "Agreed, one ship, small crew, best chance of catching Miller without alerting others to the chase. The Krall are still searching as well." 2 days later, Kira found herself aboard the Stellar Claw, a sleek Zarthi vessel designed for speed and stealth. The crew consisted of 12 Zarthi and 6 humans, all specialists chosen for their skills rather than political reliability. Lieutenant Wright had volunteered to join, providing much-needed combat expertise. The ship accelerated to speeds Kira had never experienced before. The stars outside the viewport stretched into lines of light as the Claw pursued Miller's energy signature toward the galactic rim. Sari, still recovering from her wound, spent much of her time studying the data they had salvaged from the crystal. "The Ancient Ones called themselves the Progenitors," she told Kira during one quiet moment. They seeded countless worlds with life forms based on their own genetic template, including both Earth and Zarta. This knowledge would shatter the foundations of both our societies. Maybe that's why Miller took the crystal, suggested Kira, to prevent either side from using this information. Sari's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Or to use it herself. The power of the Ascension Gate would make its controller virtually unstoppable. After 5 days of pursuit, the Claw detected a massive energy surge from a system on the very edge of charted space. The ship's sensors showed a small, planetoid orbiting a binary star exactly matching the holographic image from the crystal we've found it, announced the Zarthi navigator, the Ascension Gate. Sari ordered the ship to approach with caution. Activate stealth systems, no communications, no active scans, passive sensors only. As they drew closer, the planetoid resolved into an artificial structure. A massive ring, nearly 1,000 kilometers in diameter, with geometric patterns etched into its surface. The ring rotated slowly around, a central sphere of swirling energy. Incredible, whispered Wright, standing beside Kira on the bridge. Who could build something that size? The same beings who might have created both our species, replied Kira. The sensors detected a small ship docked. At one edge of the ring, Dr. Miller's vessel had arrived before them. Sari ordered the Claw to dock at a distance using the ring's structure for cover. We need to move quickly, said Sari, assembling the boarding team. Miller has had time to explore. Already Kira Wright and 2 human specialists joined Sari and 4 Zarthi warriors for the mission. The team crossed from their docking port onto the surface of the ring, finding artificial gravity and a breathable atmosphere waiting for them. The structure recognizes our presence, observed one of the Zarthi scientists scanning the environment. It's adapting to our needs. They followed energy readings toward Miller's ship. The ring's surface featured corridors and chambers that seemed to shift and reconfigure as they advanced. The architecture defied conventional understanding, with spaces that appeared larger inside than their external dimensions should allow. They found Miller in a vast chamber at the heart of the ring. She stood before a control interface, her hands moving across symbols that glowed at her touch. The crystal floated above the console, pulsing with increasing intensity. Dr. Miller, called Kira, step away from the controls. Miller turned surprise evident on her face. Sergeant Brooks, how did you find me? Her gaze shifted to the mixed team behind Kira. And working with Zarthi, I see. The artifact doesn't belong to any one species, said Kira, advancing slowly. It's too dangerous. We need to study it carefully. Together. Together. Miller laughed. Like Colonel Mason wanted to work together. The crystal showed me the truth. This technology was meant for all of us. The progenitors created both humans and Zarthi as their children. But they knew we would fight, so they left this gate as a test. Only when we truly cooperate can it be activated safely. Then cooperate with us, urged Sari, stepping forward. Return to the ship. Let our scientists examine the crystal properly. Miller shook her head. It's too late. For that, I've already initiated the sequence. The gate will open in minutes. I just need to make one adjustment. As she turned back to the console, the chamber trembled. A deep, resonant tone echoed through the structure. The floating crystal pulsed, faster, its light now blinding. She's destabilizing the containment field, shouted the Zarthi scientist. The energy will tear the gate apart. Kira lunged forward, tackling Miller away from the console. They tumbled across the floor as the chamber shook more violently. Pieces of the ceiling began to break loose. You don't understand? Cried Miller, struggling against Kira's grip. I'm trying to save everyone. The gate can't fall into the wrong hands. By destroying it, demanded Kira. Along with all of us. A necessary sacrifice, said Miller, her eyes wild. Better than war. Sari moved to the console, studying the symbols. The sequence cannot be stopped, but it can be corrected. Her 4 hands worked across the interface with incredible speed. The progenitor language shares elements with ancient Zarthi script. I can redirect the energy. The chamber shuddered again more violently. Wright and the team secured Miller as Kira joined Sari at the console. What can I do? Asked Kira. The crystal responds to harmonic frequencies, said Sari. Use your communicator, generate a stabilizing tone pattern 649. Kira adjusted her device, creating the tone Sari had specified. The crystal's pulsing slowed slightly. It's working, said Sari. But the gate's activation sequence is too far along. We cannot stop it, we can only direct where it opens. The floor beneath them began to crack, energy leaking through the fissures. The Zarthi scientist called out a warning. The structural integrity is failing. We have minutes at most. We need to get everyone back to the ship, shouted Kira. No time, responded Sari, her hands still moving across the console. When the gate opens, it will create a temporal gravitational shockwave. Nothing within. This system will survive, but I can direct the gateway to open near our homeworlds. You mean use it to escape? Asked Kira. Can you do that? Sari looked at her amber eyes intense. Together we can. The gate requires both human and Zarthi genetic signatures to activate properly. Place your hands here alongside mine. The survivors from the Vega outpost brought troubling news. The lead scientist, Dr. Susan Miller, explained to the gathered human and Zarthi officials what the Kral had been searching for. We were studying an ancient artifact, she said, her voice still shaky from the ordeal. A data crystal of unknown origin with technology far beyond even Zarthi understanding. She nodded respectfully toward the matriarchs. We believe it contains star maps to systems beyond the known galaxy. Vexala leaned forward, her ancient eyes intense. And did the Kral obtain this artifact? Dr. Miller shook her head. No, we managed to hide it before they breached the central lab, but they will not stop looking. Admiral Foster frowned. Why would the Kral want star maps they already raid throughout known space? Because these aren't just maps, explained Dr. Miller. The crystal contains references to something called the Ascension Gate, a technology that could allow instantaneous travel anywhere in the universe. The race that controls it would have an insurmountable advantage. The implications hung heavy in the air. If the Kral found this Ascension Gate, they could strike anywhere without warning. Both human and Zarthi civilizations would be vulnerable. Where is the artifact now? Asked Foster. Secure aboard the Horizon, replied Dr. Miller. But we can't access most of the data. Our computers aren't advanced enough to decode it. All eyes turned to the Zarthi matriarchs. Their computational systems were known to be superior to human technology. We will examine this crystal, decided Vexala. Under joint supervision, our scientists will work with yours, Dr. Miller. This unprecedented cooperation marked another step toward alliance, but not everyone welcomed this development. Kira noticed tension among some of the human officials, particularly Colonel Greg Mason, who had opposed the peace talks from the beginning. Later that evening, as Kira returned to her quarters, she found Admiral Foster waiting for her. Sergeant, I need your insight, said Foster, motioning Kira inside. You've spent more time with the Zarthi than anyone. Do you trust them with this artifact? Kira considered carefully. I trust Sari, and I believe Vexala is sincere. But both our YE species have factions that might prefer continued conflict. Foster nodded grimly. Like Colonel Mason has been communicating with hardliners back home, the crystal makes everything more complicated. Some see it as a weapon to use against the Zarthi, not a reason to cooperate. And the Zarthi probably have similar divisions, observed Kira. Exactly, which is why you're being reassigned. Foster handed her a data pad. You'll join the joint research team as security liaison. Keep an eye on everyone, human and Zarthi. The next morning, Kira reported to the research lab where Dr. Miller and 3 Zarthi scientists worked around a containment field housing the crystal. It was smaller than Kira had imagined, no larger than her palm, with a swirling luminescence that shifted between blue and green. Fascinating, innit? Said Sari, entering behind her. Our ancestors spoke of the ancient ones who traveled between galaxies, but we thought they were myths. You think this crystal was made by them? Asked Kira. Sari moved closer to the containment field. It matches descriptions in our oldest texts. The Ascension Gate was said to be their greatest creation, a doorway between stars. Dr. Miller approached, excitement evident in her tired eyes. We made a breakthrough. The crystal responds to certain harmonic frequencies. When exposed to the right sequence, it reveals more data. She demonstrated activating a sonic emitter. The crystal pulsed and projected a holographic star map into the air. The display showed systems far beyond charted space, and at its center a strange structure orbiting a binary star. "We believe that's the Ascension Gate," explained Dr. Miller, "but we still can't determine its exact location. Some of the reference points don't match any known stars." As the research continued over the next few days, Kira divided her time between security duties and observing the scientists' work. She noticed the Zarthi becoming increasingly excited as more data was unlocked, their normally reserved demeanor giving way to animated discussions in their native language. One evening, Kira found Sari alone in the lab studying the crystal with unusual intensity. "Trouble sleeping?" asked Kira. Entering the room, Sari looked up. "Our scientists have found something. They haven't shared it with the humans, yet I thought you should know." Kira tensed. "What is it?" "The crystal contains more than star maps," said Sari, lowering her voice. "It holds the genetic code of the Ancient Ones, and Kira, they were neither human nor Zarthi, but somehow both their genetic structure suggests they could be a common ancestor to both our species." The revelation hit Kira like a physical blow. That would mean that humans and Zarthi are evolutionary cousins. Yes. Sari's mandibles twitched, and what Kira had learned was amusement. "Perhaps this explains why I found your mercy so compelling. Our instincts recognize something familiar in each other." Before Kira could process this information, alarms blared. "Throughout the ship, security breach in Section 4, announced the computer system." Armed intruders detected. Kira and Sari exchanged a quick glance. Both reached for their weapons and moved toward the lab entrance. The sound of weapons fire echoed down the corridor. "The crystal," said Sari. "They must be after it." They secured the lab door and Kira activated the emergency lockdown, but the intruders were already inside the ship, working their way toward them. "Horizon, this is Sergeant Brooks." Kira called into her communicator. "We need reinforcements at the research lab." Static answered her. "Communications are being jammed," observed Sari, checking her own device. "We are on our own." Dr. Miller rushed to secure the crystal, placing it in a specialized container. If they get this technology, the lab door exploded inward. Smoke filled the room as armored figures stormed through the breach. Kira expected to see Krell raiders, but these were humans. Coalition Special Forces led by Colonel Mason. "Secure the artifact," ordered Mason, "and detain the aliens." Kira stepped forward, her weapon raised. "Colonel, stand down." "This is a violation of the peace agreement," Mason sneered. "Peace? The Zarthi can't be trusted with this power." Brooks stepped aside. "This is for Earth's protection." "No," said Kira firmly, positioning herself between the soldiers and the Zarthi. "I won't let you start a war." "Then you're a traitor," growled Mason, raising his weapon. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. Mason fired. Sari pushed Kira aside, taking the blast meant for her. The Zarthi collapsed, blue blood seeping from her chest. More soldiers poured into the lab. Kira fired her weapon, catching Mason in the shoulder. The colonel stumbled backward. As chaos erupted around them, Dr. Miller made a desperate move. She activated the container holding the crystal. The device began to pulse with intense energy. "What are you doing?" shouted Kira, dropping to Sari's side. "Protecting the artifact," replied Miller as the pulsing light engulfed her. "They can't be allowed to use it as a weapon." A blinding flash filled the room, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. When the light faded, Dr. Miller and the crystal were gone. A perfect circular hole had been cut through the decks above and below, marking their passage through the ship. Kira cradled the wounded Sari, torn between pursuing Miller and staying with her friend. The decision was made for her as Admiral Foster arrived with security forces. "Arrest." Colonel Mason and his men ordered Foster, her expression thunderous. "Sergeant, report." The colonel attempted to seize the artifact, explained Kira. Dr. Miller activated it somehow and disappeared with it. "Sari needs medical attention, as Zarthi Medics rushed to Sari's side. Kira felt the delicate peace they had worked toward crumbling. The Colonel's actions would be seen as a betrayal by the Zarthi. The artifact was now missing, and somewhere in the vast expanse of space, Dr. Miller was, heading toward the Ascension Gate with power that neither humans nor Zarthi fully understood. Light engulfed them, blinding in its intensity. Kira felt herself pulled forward as if by an irresistible tide. Her hand gripped Sari's as reality itself seemed to tear open. The last thing she saw was the chamber collapsing around them as the gateway swallowed the team. When the light faded, Kira found herself standing on solid ground beneath an unfamiliar sky. The air held a sweet scent reminiscent of the Zarthi ship, but stronger. She blinked, trying to orient herself. The boarding team stood, nearby looking equally disoriented. "Where are we?" asked Wright, checking her equipment. "This isn't the Claw." Sari scanned their surroundings, her amber eyes wide with what Kira recognized as awe. Not where Lieutenant, when the crystal didn't just open, a spatial gateway but a temporal one as well. They stood on a vast plain beneath a purple sky. 2 suns hung overhead, one blue, one orange. The horizon showed the silhouette of an enormous city, unlike any human or Zarthi architecture. Crystal spires reached toward the heavens, connected by arcing bridges that seemed to be made of solid light. "Is that?" began Kira, unable to complete the question. "A progenitor city," confirmed Sari. "We have traveled not just through space but time as impossible. As it seems, we are in the past, the distant past." Dr. Miller, who had been secured by 2 Zarthi warriors, stared at the city, her scientific curiosity overcoming her previous fanaticism. The Ancient Ones, their civilization at its height. "This is incredible." Before anyone could respond, figures appeared on the plain, moving toward them with fluid grace. Their forms were tall and slender, with 4 arms like the Zarthi, but facial features more similar to humans. Their skin shimmered with colors that shifted as they moved. "Descendants," spoke one of the figures, its voice resonating directly in Kira's mind. "You have activated the Ascension Gate sooner than anticipated." Sari stepped forward. "You understand us." "We understand all languages," replied the being. "Your thoughts are patterns we perceive easily. You are Zarthi and human combined genetics from our seeding program. The gate recognized your dual signatures and brought you to us." "The progenitors," whispered Kira. "You created both our species." The being inclined its head. "We seeded many worlds with variations of our genetic code. Your 2 species were designed to be complementary halves of our legacy. The Zarthi inherited our physical adaptability. 4 limbs enhanced senses, the humans gained our cognitive flexibility, creativity, adaptable thinking. Your civilizations were meant to evolve separately, then join together, combining strengths. But we fought instead," said Sari, "for generations. A failure in our calculations," admitted the progenitor. "The instinct for tribalism proved stronger than anticipated, but you have overcome it. Proof stands before us, a human who saved a Zarthi who protected a human, 2 who worked together to activate the gate." Kira and Sari exchanged glances. The being gestured toward the crystal which floated between them. "The key you discovered was meant to be found when both species reached sufficient technological advancement. It contains not just the location of the gate, but the complete history of our civilization and the future of yours." "The future?" asked Wright. "You know what will happen to us." "Time is not linear for us," explained the progenitor. "We exist simultaneously across many temporal planes. We have seen potential futures. Some lead to the extinction of both your species, others to remarkable achievements." Dr. Miller stepped forward, despite her guards. "Why bring us here? Why not just leave instructions?" "Some knowledge cannot be given, it must be earned," said the progenitor. "And some lessons must be experienced, not told. Your journey to find us forged the beginning of trust between your peoples. Now you must decide what to do with what you have learned." The being gestured, and the air shimmered. A vision appeared, showing countless stars, systems, planets teeming with life. Our civilization spans galaxies, continued the progenitor, but we are few now. Most have ascended to energy forms beyond physical existence. Those of us who remain maintain the legacy, ensure the continuation of life. But we cannot interfere directly in your development. You must choose your own path. What exactly are you offering us? Asked Kira, sensing there was more to this meeting than a history lesson. A choice, replied the being. We can return you to your time with knowledge of your common origin and the technology to advance both your civilizations, or we can send you home with no memory of this encounter, allowing you to develop naturally. Or perhaps there is a third option, suggested Sari. Return us with the knowledge of our shared heritage, but without the advanced technology, we are not ready for such power. The attempt to control the crystal already nearly led to disaster. The progenitor seemed pleased. Wisdom, the third path, is indeed available. The middle way. Knowledge without power. Inspiration without temptation. Kira looked at her companions, seeing agreement in their eyes. Even Dr. Miller seemed subdued by the enormity of their situation. We choose the middle path, said Kira. Let us remember this moment. Let us know our true history. But the technology should remain here until both our species have proven worthy of it. So be it, said the progenitor. You will return with memories intact and proof of your shared ancestry. But the gate and its technology will remain sealed until humans and Zarthi have formed a lasting alliance. The crystal will remain with us. How will we get home? Asked Wright. Our ship was likely destroyed when the gate activated. The journey back is already prepared. The being gestured toward a shimmering portal that appeared nearby. This will return you to your proper time and place. The rest is for you to determine. As they prepared to depart, the progenitor approached Kira and Sari. Your actions began this journey, a simple act of mercy on a battlefield. The small choices of individuals can alter the course of civilizations. Remember this. The team gathered before the portal. Dr. Miller, now subdued, walked willingly with them. I was wrong, she told Kira. I thought I was protecting humanity, but I nearly destroyed everything. We all make mistakes, replied Kira. What matters is learning from them. Sari stood at Kira's side. Are you ready, human, to return and tell both our peoples that everything they believe about themselves is wrong? Kira smiled. Not everything. The best parts are still true. Your honor, our compassion, those are real, no matter where they came from. They stepped through the portal together, and once again light engulfed them. The return caused less disorientation. This time they materialized directly aboard the horizon in the conference room where human and Zarthi delegations were gathered. Both sides jumped to their feet in shock. Sergeant Brooks, exclaimed Admiral Foster. You've been missing for 3 weeks. We thought you were dead. 3 weeks. Kira exchanged glances with Sari. It felt like hours. Supreme Matriarch Vex Allah approached, studying them intently. Something has changed. You are different. We have seen the truth, said Sari, and we have brought proof. In the days that followed, Kira and Sari presented their findings to the combined delegations. The genetic evidence was irrefutable. Humans and Zarthi shared common ancestry designed by the progenitors to complement each other. Their differences were intentional, their similarities profound. The revelation changed everything. Some resisted, refusing to accept a truth that challenged their species' supremacy, but many more embraced it. A new understanding blossomed. The war that had raged for generations lost its purpose in the face of their shared heritage. 6 months later, Kira stood beside Sari on the observation deck of the newly commissioned Alliance. Vessel Unity, the first ship built jointly by humans and Zarthi engineers from both species, had collaborated, creating a vessel that incorporated the best of both design philosophies. Did you ever imagine this? Asked Kira, watching Earth and Zarta appear on the view screen. The ship was positioned precisely between the two homeworlds, a symbol of their new relationship. Not when I lay paralyzed on Nexus Prime, admitted Sari. Then I only thought of dying with honor. And now I think of living with purpose. Sari turned to Kira. The progenitors said we were complementary halves, neither complete without the other. Perhaps they were right. Kira smiled. They also said small choices can change everything, a single act of mercy, or a decision to trust, added Sari below them. Earth and Zarta continued their separate orbits around their respective stars, but the distance between them seemed less vast now, bridged by understanding and a shared destiny. A journey that began with one human soldier helping one alien warrior had transformed two civilizations. The Unity's engines hummed as it prepared for its maiden voyage. The ship would be the first to explore beyond the boundaries of known space, carrying representatives of both species, not to conquer but to discover, to learn, to grow together as the progenitors had intended. Ready for the next adventure? Sergeant Brooks asked. Sari. Kira nodded. Always, Commander. Sari, always.